If getting your child out the door feels like you're negotiating a hostage release every single morning, you're not imagining it. Maybe it's turning off the iPad for dinner, leaving the playground, walking out of a store, the Sunday night before school starts on Monday. Or maybe it's 45-minute battle over putting on a pair of socks. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know something right away. Your child isn't trying to make your life difficult. And you are not failing as a parent, because what looks like a behavioral problem on the outside is often something much deeper happening on the inside. Today I want to show you why transitions are one of the hardest things for many children, especially those kids that are struggling with ADHD, anxiety, or sensory challenges, and understanding why the nervous system completely changes how we help them. We see families like this every week in our office. Parents walk through the doors exhausted, not because they don't love all of these moments with their kids, but because every single day feels like another battle that they're signing up for. Morning routines end in tears. Teachers have to step in during classroom transitions. Picking them up from school feels chaotic. Bedtime stretches into a 2-hour negotiation, and almost every parent eventually saying the same thing. We've tried everything. We've done the reward charts, we've used visual timers, we've counted backwards, we've practiced breathing techniques. They have exhausted the parenting books. Some things help, and they notice these shifts for a little while, but they don't see concrete changes. Then comes the guilt we often hear from these families. Maybe I'm not consistent enough. Maybe I'm too soft as a parent. Maybe I'm too strict. I want you to hear this if that sounds like you. You are absolutely not failing your child. You're not failing your family. You're trying to parent a child whose nervous system is overwhelmed, and no parenting strategy can regulate a nervous system that is stuck in survival gas pedal mode. There's actually a reason transitions feel so hard. Think about what happens every time we ask a child to change activity. Their brain has to stop what it's doing, let go of what it enjoys often, and remember what's coming next. Ignore distractions, manage emotions, and immediately shift into something completely different. That process is called set shifting. It's one of the executive functions controlled by the prefrontal cortex, that part of the brain responsible for planning, attention, flexibility, and self-control. Here's the important part. The prefrontal cortex does not fully mature until our mid-20s. So we're asking children whose brains are still under so much construction to perform one of the most neurologically demanding tasks we can give them. So for kids with ADHD, anxiety, or sensory processing disorder, those pathways are often developing in a different strategy, which means a simple request like, go put your shoes on, does not feel simple to their brain. It can feel absolutely overwhelming. Now, let's add on another layer to that. I like to explain the nervous system like you're driving a car. You have a gas pedal and you have a brake pedal. The gas pedal is known as the sympathetic side of your nervous system. It's the system's fight or flight, stress survival mode, sometimes freeze, right? Sometimes it's going to have a freeze connected to that as well. The brake pedal is your parasympathetic side of the nervous system. It's the calm, the emotional regulation, the connection, the connectability, the adaptability to our environment. A healthy nervous system moves smoothly between these two systems. Gas pedal when it's needed, brake pedal when that's appropriate. But many children today, especially the ones who are struggling with transition, they're driving around with their foot stuck hardcore all the way to the pedal on the gas pedal side. And their brake pedal unfortunately barely works for them. We call this dysautonomia, an imbalance in the autonomic nervous system. And so when this happens, ordinary changes often feel not so ordinary anymore. They feel threatening to their body, which is why something as small as leaving the park or shutting off the iPad, the TV, can trigger a full body stress response. The meltdown isn't a choice, it's the nervous system that's lost its ability to shift its gears. One of the things that we've noticed over the years of caring for our families is that ADHD, anxiety, and sensory processing challenges often appear different on paper, but surprisingly they show up similarly neurologically. So often we see that the nervous system struggles within the changing and the adaptability. A child with ADHD struggles to disengage from something they love. A child with anxiety starts to worry before the transition ever happens. A child with sensory processing is already working overtime just to process the world around them. So those show up as different labels with the same underlying stress response. That's why behavior charts, consequences, and stricter rewards often fall short, because you can't discipline a nervous system into becoming regulated. You have to help it repair first, and then you'll begin to see the downstream regulation. So the question then becomes, why are so many kids living with their foot stuck on the gas pedal side of their nervous system? This is where we teach something called the perfect storm. We don't believe there's usually one single cause. Instead, it's a collection of stressors that begin stacking up long before the first meltdown ever happens. Sometimes it begins as early as during your pregnancy. High maternal stress, inflammation, elevated cortisol. Then we see the birth process. Oftentimes we see there's been an induction, there's been impact on the labor starting, a long labor, a C-section. We see assistance in delivery, whether that's forceps, vacuum extraction, or just the hands of the practitioner. All of those place significant mechanical stress on the upper portion of the neck, where the brain and the nervous system communicate with the rest of the body. Then life keeps adding stress. We see ear infections that then receive antibiotics. You'll have falls. We'll see concussions, poor sleep patterns, difficulties with eating, screen, constant overstimulation from our environment. Each stressor by itself may not seem like a big deal, but stack enough of them on top of each other, and eventually the nervous system stops adapting. It literally gets stuck. In chiropractic, we call that neurological interference. Or there's a term that we use often in our office called subluxation. When communication between the brain and the body becomes distorted or disrupted, the stress response stays turned on. Even when the danger of the environment is gone, that stress signal is still active. So what actually helps? What can parents do, right? First, prepare the brain before the transition happens, right? You guys can give countdowns, use previews, tell them what's coming next. So instead of surprising your child, allow their brain some time to shift gears, create routine. Predictability decreases stress for them. Movement is going to be an incredibly powerful tool. So jumping, climbing, stretching, that's helping the nervous system regulate. Anything that helps discharge build up stress or energy. Protect their sleep. I'm telling you, sleep is when the brain restores its ability to regulate. Really get hyper aware of their sleep. And finally, remember that regulation is contagious. Your child borrows your nervous system before they build their own. So the more calm you are, the safer their brain and their nervous system feels. I also want to say something important. If you've been doing all of these things and your child is still struggling, that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It simply means your child's nervous system needs support that goes beyond home strategies. Because we meet families all the time that have implemented so many strategies. If your child meltdowns during every transition, if morning feels impossible, if leaving the playground ends in tears, If bedtime is absolutely exhausting for everyone, please hear this. This is not because your child is bad. It's not because you're a bad parent. And it's not something they will simply grow out of, as a lot of your pediatricians have told you. Their nervous system may be asking for help. At Cultivate, we use advanced insight scans, including heart rate variability, surface EMG, and thermal scans to measure how your child's nervous system is functioning. These scans help us identify where stress becomes stuck and why regulation becomes so difficult. And from there, gentle, neurologically focused chiropractic adjustments help restore the communication between the brain and the body, bringing balance back to the nervous system. As this happens, families often tell us they begin noticing the little victories they've been seeking for so long. Mornings become smoother, bedtime becomes easier, transitions become less overwhelming, and their child begins responding to life with far more flexibility than fear. Because at the end of the day, your child does not need another label, and they need a nervous system that's finally able to adapt. If you've learned that whether your child is this is happening to your child, please click the link in your bio, send us a message, or schedule a connect call with our team. We'd love to help you find the answers that you've been searching so deep for and provide hope for your family. We look forward to serving your family at Cultivate. Thank you.